Morphternoon, folks. Mark here, and welcome to the painting table. Let's finish this Hokusai. Don't worry, the sofa's fine. I forgot to film an intro. As a start, here's me looking at some Japanese papers. Got a fun little selection of different colours and types to match the original. Maybe a little too white. Lovely colour, but not for this. Too thick to form over the river. Obviously, the leading contenders needed a little ink test. Just in case one of these was on the use it with oil inks list. These two are probably my favourites, which means I can use Ivory Primer. Weird, but should blend into the paper reasonably. Although the primer had revealed some sharp edges, and a whole missing segment of wave. Gotta sort that out first. After that, I was going to get the paper in place, but someone very sensibly pointed out I was making my life harder. I could decide which paper later on, once I found out how painting the foreground turned out. Didn't have a Prussian blue miniature paint, so I dug out a tube of artist's acrylic. Slight problem, thinning it out so much resulted in it lifting. Best use matte medium instead of water then, like a sensible person. Of course, I broke his arm off early on, as is tradition. Did add a little bit of black to the depths of the water, just to increase the contrast. The original print was Aizorie, which literally translates to blue printed picture. Later runs added red to the fisherman's clothes, which would add a focal point, but I'm probably doing enough weird things already. Sticking with Prussian blue then, glazed over the beige. When I was highlighting the characters, I added a little white to help them draw the eye. kinda worried about the composition and focal points of it. Wasn't sure how it would all balance out. The more I did, the less like the original woodcut it got. Kind of. Background printing time. Step 1. Mix an ink to match the paintwork. Wait, I need to pick the paper first. Step 0. No, gonna have to tidy up the sides before that. I don't want to be sanding those clean with the paper in place. Kinda wish I'd been less impatient to get painting and done this properly before. Sanding done, so paper choice. What I was trying to decide is whether to go with brighter and have more highlight space for the wave tops, or darker, which matches the primer closely, but limits my highlighting a bit. Ended up going for the closer match, hoping that keeping the bright highlights on the people would make them the focal point. Which brings us back up to step 1. Prussian blue is blue with a good bit of black in it. And a tiny, tiny bit of red, perhaps? Looks close, right? This is where it could go either way. Do I get a good print that fits with the foreground? Or do I spend ages trying to merge the two and still get a clunky mess? First try, and the gradients weren't too bad. The colour, though, felt very dull compared to the painted areas. Easy to solve. For the second version, I switched back to the basic blue ink, which was pretty good. But that tiny ridge of Prussian blue, I couldn't ignore it, so I had to go round again. But what I could do with this version is try it out on the background. Wasn't entirely sure how to get it in there at first, but rolling worked, ish. Two more prints, and I had something I was happy with. Now to stick it down. Only, I didn't know how this paper would take glue. And I have options. Two things to test for: visibility and grip. Lucky I tested that, really. Glue stick was the winner, and off I went. Not exactly a normal way to use glue sticks, but we're off the beaten path here. It took a lot of back and forth fiddling to get the paper round the creases and also make it lay flat on the backdrop. Turned out that was bad. I didn't see it until it was dry, but the clouds were wonky, and the second waveline didn't even follow the crease. Which meant... yeah. I was not enjoying this bit. At least I found out that water makes glue stick easy to clean off, though. But that did send me right back to printmaking again. The next time, I limited my gluing to just that second crease. Which meant the rest of the panel went on much easier, almost as if I'd been kinda stupid first time. Well then, the merge zone. The crux of the whole piece. Surprisingly simple. I tore off little shreds until I could hide the paper's edge against the breakers. Where I couldn't use a breaker, the thin, torn edge softened out pretty nicely on its own. Next step, the wave lines. I tried a rigging brush to get long, smooth lines, but it was pulling the fibers too much. And then I did this. Be glad you can't hear the actual audio at this point. But we push on. No way was I starting again with a fresh print. Had to fade the paint into the paper anyway, so I covered the mistake and got on with blending the waves. A little texture on the waves would help the smooth surfaces fit with the paper. Biggest problem was the sheen of the paper making the paint obvious at certain angles. I knew I couldn't spray matte it. The paper fibers got real woolly when I tried. Instead, I hand-painted matte varnish onto the key areas to disguise the change, including the very top of the paper, which I would have left natural if not for my big ol' whoopsie earlier. Also turns out that matte varnish reactivates printing ink, so a little cleanup was necessary. I know this has been a long video, but I promise we're almost done. I just need to add the fishing lines to the fisherman, which would also be his hands. I did promise they'd come later, and this is as later as it can get. Invisible sewing thread is not very cooperative, but I eventually made a loop and hook of 4 strands to go between his wrists. Paint in the right place makes them look like hands, even though I haven't sculpted them at all. The other ends got fed into holes poked in the water. Apparently there would be cormorants on the end of the lines, not hooks. Glad I didn't have to show that. As a finisher, I decided to paint the name of the scene on the front. Marked a grid with tape and matte varnish, as it would disappear when I matted the whole plinth. Went to peel the tape off, and there's that curse again. Humidity and gloss varnish are a bad combination. Second time out, I skipped the protective varnish and things went a lot smoother. Until someone, who shall remain nameless, pointed out it would look better as ink on paper. Why you gotta be so right, man? I was almost finished. So I printed the kanji and traced them onto the same paper as the backdrop. Folded that around a little piece of card to tidy the edges, and was done. Except not quite. I did repaint the jackets dark off camera. Matches the original and makes a much better focal point. Wild to think I started this half a year ago. Been a huge learning curve with the block printing, the stretch from 2D to 3D, and learning a lot about composition from a master of it. And to think, I was planning to do 3 because it might not take very long to do just 1. If you do want to see me try this again, let me know. Although, I can't promise it anytime soon. This has been one of those projects that I'd never have finished if not for this channel, and you all watching. So, genuinely, thank you. As a bonus, I took it to Fen Model Show last weekend, and it turns out people were kind of into my nonsense. That buzz will stay with me for a long while. If you've got any thoughts, I'd love to hear them. And maybe I'll see you next time.